No.
But it was still a good call to take Ferrari out. So
I'm
gonna leave
so
it at
glad I
that.
did that. So glad I did that.
But by literally crashing his car on his first push lap, what happens? I see smoke out of who? Yeah, we'll put that right there. See how this goes.
Welcome back, guys, to an F1 video. I'm so excited. We finally had our first race since the summer break, and wow, just wow. What, what, just what? Like, I, it was such an interesting race. But before we get into the race itself, let's do free practice recap. So, in FP1, Lando Norris led and McLaren won 2 with a blistering lap of 1 minute and 10 seconds, .278, edging out teammate Oscar Piastri by nearly 3 tenths. Crazy. I was getting very excited for the weekend. Then we have Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso securing the P4 repetitively, showcasing the AMR's 25th strength on twisty circuits. It was just like deja vu, except for we replaced Stroll with Fernando. Such an interesting setup. Then we had Max Verstappen started strong but ended up in the gravel on turn 1 after a practice start, finishing P6. Kimi Antonelli beached his Mercedes early at turn 9, ending his session. And just wait, Lewis Hamilton and Yuki Tsunoda both spun out but continued. What a FP1.
But that's not all. That's not the
No.
only spins.
Then we have FP2. Lando clocked a 1 minute and 9 second .890, narrowly beating Fernando Alonso by 0.087. We had 2 red flags interrupted by this session, with Hamilton's spin compromising his flying lap and Stroll crashing in turn 3.
Yeah. Aston Martin ended up having to break curfew to repair the car because it was in turn 3, and for those of you who don't know, turn 3 is the one with the banking, and it's like this. So you either have the very high line or you have the low line, and Stroll did not have the best line, and yeah, and with his wrist injuries, you would think that during this he would take his hands off the steering wheel. No, he kept them on. Probably not the smartest move. I wouldn't have kept my hands on that. But,
No.
I mean, his front suspension snapped, so even if he wanted to do anything steering-wise, he couldn't.
Yeah, I just remember, I think as it was Friday, I remember jumping back on because, like, I work all day. So on my lunch break, I was like, yo, what did I miss? Because, like, it was just like, oh, he was in P3, FP1. And then he spun, oh no, but Fernando? such a interesting Friday. But then we have FP. Lando Norris got the fastest again with a scorching lap of 1 minute and 8 seconds, .972, just a tenth shy of Verstappen's circuit record. And then we have Carlos Sainz, impressed in the Williams, finishing P4 ahead of home hero Max Verstappen in P5. And then Piastri versus Russell, a near collision at pit entry, is under investigation.
Yeah, they ended up giving a $5,000 fine to McLaren because of this. I mean, I feel like, you know what, we're in the pit lane. There's no need to be racy, so
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, why are you doing this, guys? But it looked to me from George's onboard that Oscar was going into his pit box. He swerved, came back into George, and then went back. And so I understand why Oscar did it, but at the same time, I'm like, really, guys? Like, there was no need for this.
Yeah, great stuff. But then we have qualifying. I didn't know if you were doing this one or not.
Yeah, I'll do that. So yeah, we had a lot. As I mentioned, This is how I'm going to start this out. As I mentioned, we know Lance Stroll crashed in FP2, and the Aston Martin crew stayed up and broke curfew in order to repair the car. How does Lance Stroll repay them? But by literally crashing his car on his first push lap.
He said, surprise, I'm actually gonna make your lives a living.
Yes. So therefore, he started P20, no time set, automatically out, not great. We also had Ollie Behrman because he had his grid penalty, as well as Esteban Ocon, Nico Hulkenberg, and Franco Colapinto out in Q1. Q2, we had Kimi Antonelli, Yuki Tsunoda, Gabriel Bortoleto, Pierre Gasly, and Alex Albon get knocked out. And then our top 10, so starting in 10th, we had Fernando, 9th is Carlos, 8th is Liam, 7th is Lewis, followed by Charles in 6th. 5th was George, 4th was Isaac Hadjar, 3rd was Max Verstappen, 2nd was Lando, and 1st was Oscar on pole by 12 thousandths of a second. Or is it 10th? No, 12 hundredths of a second. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, because you got 0.0, then the 1,
Yeah.
in the hundredths place.
I struggled with that in math, fun fact. But yeah, Oscar's lap was crazy. I have no idea how he said it. Honestly, up until this point, I was like, surely it's gonna be Lando on pole. And the first run for both McLarens was so crucial because their second runs, they didn't improve, either of them. No one really improved on their second run in Q3, so I was shocked to see their first run in Q3 to be the ones that set the pole times or their race starting positions. And Fernando did not seem happy at all. He got stuck in traffic, so he started where he did, and that was just unfortunate. But Racing Bulls 2 cars in the top 10, so it looked promising, and it was. But I will do the race recap. So starting lap 1, Oscar strong getaway. Max dived shockingly around the outside at turn 1 to get he did kind of like swerve a little bit. He did get into the gravel a little bit. He took the low line in turn 3, I believe, and let me just tell you, it did not look like he was gonna hold that spot at all. I'm shocked that he did, but we have to remember that he was one of the only drivers to start on softs. Pretty much everyone else started on mediums, minus Pierre and Yuki and a couple others. I think the Haas both started on hards as well. But yeah, I mean, he gambled and it somewhat paid off. So yeah, everyone pretty much stayed the same minus Max and Lando, and Alex was up like 10 spots, and I was like, from P15 and up, he's up within the top 10 already, like, okay, go off, Alex. But then laps 2 through 23, not much ended up happening, but then we had the McLaren duo fighting for fastest laps and who was actually gonna maintain it. Didn't really see much after that, but lap 24, turn 3, we got our first safety car because none other than the Lewis Hamilton spins out. And you know how I was talking about Stroll with him crashing into the barriers and whatnot? Pretty much the same thing happened to Lewis. He took too high of a line, so
yeah, I was gonna say that. Like, I just remember watching it, I'm like, okay, this is great. And I'm like, oh, wasn't expecting that, but okay.
Yeah, I don't know what he was thinking going through that, and he was like, this was literally after they had pitted him, because he was like, we gotta undercut all these guys. And so they were trying the undercut strategy, and then he crashed. So that didn't really work out in his favor.
I was just like, oh, okay. And then it was just like boring laps because it was just safety car laps for a while.
Right, which is laps 24 through 30. Our safety car period, 6 laps. We had everyone pretty much bunching up, people going into pit lane, getting new tires, and this was kind of where the rain started falling, but it wasn't heavy enough to put on inters. And I really thought that this weekend was going to be more impacted by the weather, but it wasn't overly impacted by it.
No.
But it was still a good call to take Ferrari out, so
I'm so glad I did that. So glad I did that.
But Oscar maintained his lead. He had a good start when we went green. And then we had the controversy of Carlos and Liam colliding at the restart, resulting in Carlos earning a 10-second penalty. We will talk a little bit more about this in a bit, so we'll come back to this, I promise, actually.
I have to say, though, all I have to say is Carlos's little crash out moment when it happened, and he's like, it's always the same one, the same person. I was like, anyway.
And then a couple minutes later, he was like, are you joking? Sorry, we are not.
He had a rough weekend. It was his birthday weekend, and
yeah, unfortunate. But anyways, continuing on with the race, laps 31 through 53, Max attempted to put some pressure on Oscar. Didn't happen, and then George Russell somehow battling Alex and Kimi for P5, which shocking. Don't know how Kimi got there, but Alex and his fantastic start. So, but this is where it starts to be like, what is going on? So we had Kimi pitting, and before that, Charles pitted to cover off Kimi, and Kimi had one lap on his soft tires, right? And Charles had just pitted for new softs as well, so Charles' tires weren't technically up to temperature yet. Kimi's were. And let's just say turn 3, there was a little collision. Maybe a little bit more than a little collision, considering Charles's whole front wing was ripped off. But this resulted in a second safety car after Kimi took the low line in turn 3 and made an ambitious move over Charles. But this was before Charles was battling. Well, this was after Charles battled George and kind of bulldozed his way through there. And let's just say Charles kind of made an enemy out of Mercedes after that, and then Kimi went and did that, and I kind of think it's karma, but and of course then we got the iconic pictures of him sitting on the hill with someone's phone watching the race.
The iconic hill.
Yeah.
It's very iconic, especially this race.
That's not the only iconic moment, because then a couple laps later, what happens? I see smoke out of who? Lando's car. What did I say last video? What did I say last video? Something was gonna happen to Lando's car. Why did I have to say that? Why did I have to say that? Because.
Why did you have to say that?
Every time
she goes, his car's on fire. I'm like, yeah, no, he's on fire this race. She goes, no,
it's literally on fire. I see the smoke. After he gained P2, his car is smoking, and I am freaking out. I'm like, there's no stinking way. No stinking way. And then I hear his radio. It doesn't smell good. It cuts to his car coming around over one of the hills. Yeah, pull over and get out of the car before it explodes. But then that was his race over, unfortunately. After he had closed the gap to Oscar to be under 3 seconds, so.
I was so excited.
Yeah, then Max inherited second and safety car. So then on the restart again, Oscar maintained control. Everything was great. George attempted to pressure Isaac for P3. didn't really result in anything. And then lap 72, we had our finish, Oscar winning from pole, extending his championship lead, Max finishing P2 at home, and then Isaac Hadjar with his first ever F1 podium, and he's the second rookie to get on the podium this season, and he's our 8th driver to get on the podium. So our race results, first being Oscar, second Max, third Isaac, fourth George, fifth Alex, sixth Ollie Behrman, seventh Lance Stroll, eighth Fernando Alonso, ninth Yuki Tsunoda, 10th Esteban Ocon, 11th Franco Colapinto, 12th Liam Lawson, 13th Carlos Sainz, and 14th Nico Hulkenberg, 15th Gabriel Bortoleto,
Kimmy.
16th Kimi, 17th Pierre, and our DNFs, our 3 lovely DNFs, both Ferraris of Lewis and Charles, along with the P2 in the championship, Lando Norris. So just a couple things to talk about here, recapping the race. Ollie Behrman started in the pit lane after taking on a new power unit. He drove to P. Once again, what did I say? Which rookie has impressed me the most?
Ollie Behrman.
Haas also got a double points finish in a weekend that wasn't looking so promising for them, so shout out to Haas. They were not the only team to finish double points, though. We had double points for Red Bull for the first time in forever. Yuki finishing 9th, so a little point haul for them, as well as Aston Martin with their 7th and 8th place finishing. Although I think that they could have been higher, but that's just me. I mean, Fernando literally at one point in the race literally went from last, and he's up here finishing 8th. So yeah, and then we have to talk again about Carlos's 10-second penalty because he didn't.
No, I literally watched it happen. I watched his little crash out, and I was like, that's so valid. That was a very valid crash out, and then you're gonna turn around and give him the 10-second penalty? I think they both definitely kind of contributed to the situation, but I wouldn't say giving Carlos the full penalty for that. Like that, I don't think that was fair.
No, at max it should have been 5-second penalty, and even then it shouldn't have gone to Carlos because Liam, you can see on his onboard, he goes like this to turn into Carlos, and it's like, dude, you knew he was there. Like, why are you turning into him?
I think that was a very, valid crash out. And then him being like, what? Me? Out of everyone?
Yeah.
If anything, if you were going to give him a penalty, it should have at least been 5 seconds, not 10.
Yeah. 10 it was very harsh. And then the fact that they wouldn't even talk to him after the race about it,
no.
Hello?
Stupid.
Yeah. No, I strongly disagree with the penalty. I don't think it should have been a penalty at all. Honestly, it should have gone to Liam because that was low-key a dive bomb. Well, it wasn't even a dive bomb because he had the outside line, which was the racing line. And yeah, it just wasn't great.
And we're not saying that just because Lewis is not Lewis. Liam is not our favorite, but I'm still gonna say, even if it was Carlos that did it, I would be like, yeah, Carlos deserved the penalty if he was the one to turn it on him. But it was clearly definitely not deserved for Carlos's stance, but whatever.
Yeah. But he wasn't the only one hit with a penalty. Lewis, for this next race in Monza, is hit with a 5-place grid penalty for speeding under double yellows. I can't remember when this was, but it happened at some point, and the stewards got him for it, so he has to serve this in Monza.
Dang.
I have one more thing before this. But we all heard about Lando's car, the oil leak. I was worried that this was going to be an issue with his power unit. McLaren has come out and said that it's not necessarily an issue with the power unit, so he will not have to take a penalty as long as he doesn't take on a new power unit because he has used up the max amount of power units. So hopefully he doesn't have to take one on yet in Monza. But I feel like we should maybe potentially be expecting that to happen, considering there are 10 races and you kind of want to finish on the best foot that you can with your power unit and your engine. So a grid penalty might be heading Lando's way for taking on the new stuff. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we could be looking at that sooner rather than later if anything worse happens.
Great. Anyways, to the constructor standings. But also, I was gonna say something, but now I forgot. So I'm just gonna keep it to myself. I'll talk about it later. Anyways, constructor standings. You guys already know McLaren is still in the lead with 584 points. You guys, it's not even a close call for Ferrari at this point. They're gonna have to work for it. But it's still a shocker that Ferrari is in second with how many troubling races they've had.
Not even just car reliability issues.
Yeah. But hey, they're in second, so congrats to them. And then, of course, we have Mercedes in third with 248 points, Red Bull in fourth with 214, Williams in fifth with 80, Aston with 62 and sixth, and then we have seventh. Racing Bulls has jumped Sauber with 60 points, leaving Sauber in 8th with 51 points, Haas in 9th with 44, and Alpine in 10th with 20. But anyways, to the driver's standings. So the biggest thing about the driver's standings currently is Isaac Hadjar has jumped into the top 10 in 10th place with 37 points, so congrats to him. Other than that, I mean, Oscar and Lando are still in the fight right now. Oscar's still in the lead because he won this last race, sadly, and it's not a 9-second gap anymore. It's a much bigger gap, so keep that in mind. He cannot win the next race and get in first. I mean,
well, essentially what needs to happen is Lando needs to win 7 out of the next 9 races in order to win.
Yeah. So,
which, I'm not gonna lie, I think that's doable because he won Singapore. He won Abu Dhabi, so that's 2. So we have 2 tracks at least that Lando should be good at. For some reason, I associate him with Texas. So I'm thinking he could do good in Austin. Las Vegas, that could be iffy. As long as he finishes ahead of Oscar for that, I think he's okay. I actually think that Mercedes has a good chance at Las Vegas again, so
yeah.
We'll get there when we get there. And then what else? What are the other races that we still have?
Is Mexico still on the list?
Oh yes, we have Mexico and Sao Paulo. Weather will kind of play into factors there as well. I think that
Brazil?
we shouldn't expect McLaren to win every single one. I would hope.
And then, I mean, nothing has really changed other than Isaac getting into the top 10. Max is still.
We have Baku still, which Oscar won last year, so teammates like to win each other's races, so that should be 4. Oh, and then Qatar. That's 5. So he needs 2 more. So he would need
Monza,
either Las Vegas, Brazil, Mexico, or Monza. He needs 2 out of those 4. Essentially. And it would help if Oscar didn't finish second in any of those that he wins. If he finishes third or something, that's more points to Lando.
Oscar's gonna take that and be like, yeah, sure, I'll take third or fourth.
Well, you never know. You could pay. I mean, I'm not saying that this will happen. But if you throw some money in the direction of someone who doesn't have a lot to lose, maybe Franco Colapinto.
Moving on to our leaderboard.
What are they gonna do?
I mean, I'm not saying no, but
anyway, I think I'm full of good ideas. Yes, but I will transition away from that so I don't get myself into any trouble. But race podium predictions and our Monza preview. So, for Monza, the first Grand Prix was held in 1950. Fun fact, the track was actually built in 1922. That was when it first opened, September 3rd. So, we're almost 103 years after it first opened. Fun fact. It will be a total of 53 laps. The lap distance is 5.793 kilometers. The race distance is 306.72 kilometers. The lap record is held by Ruben Barrichello, and that was set in 2000. The lap record time is 1 minute 21 seconds, 0.046. And last year's podium was Charles, Oscar, and Lando. So you guys might be wondering, from our predictions last week, Julie predicted Lando, Oscar, and Max, and she wanted George in fourth, even though we
You know what? And I got it right. George was in fourth. Period.
Yes. I predicted Oscar, Max, and Nico because I thought the weather was going to have more of an impact, and I didn't. But I still got 2 out of the 3. So Julie got 2 points because she got Oscar and Max. They were just in the wrong spots, but I had Oscar and Max as well, but they were in the right spot. So I got 10 points and Julie got 2. So Julie's up to 46 points and I am up to 77. Anyway, so for Monza, I have not heard anything about the weather. So I'm gonna assume that it's gonna be, I hope, but we'll see. So, I'll go first unless you have your...
No, you can go ahead.
Okay, well, we know that Monza is similar to Imola, Spa, Silverstone, Austria, and Zanvoort. So, I feel like it's safe to pick a McLaren to win one of these, and I think I have to go my redemption arc. We're coming back strong. I'm gonna go with Lando in first. I will go with... Okay, he barely won. I don't think... Well, it could be a redemption weekend. For Ferrari, we know how they like to perform in Italy, so I guess I'll put Charles in second. And I'll put Max in third because why not? I'll go Miami 2024 podium.
Nice. Probably Lando, Charles, and then maybe Oscar. I don't know.
I'm like, are you doing okay over there?
Why not? That's my prediction. Hope you guys liked it. If you want to see more of our videos, please subscribe. Please like our videos. Turn on our post notifications so you don't miss any of our videos. And then just comment your predictions, how the last race went for you. If you're a Ferrari fan, I am so sorry. But that's life as a Ferrari fan, I guess. But yeah, I hope you guys liked the video.